Hello folks and welcome to Modular Curiosity episode 10. This is the continuation of the Befaco modules episode 9. We really only have one more module to go through today. That's the A times B plus C. But there's a whole bunch more stuff I figured out about the Rampage. All kinds of cool things that have happened. Also, answers to questions and comments that have come up on both the Facebook VCV Rack official user group and also the Reddit VCV Rack subreddit. So we're going to jump right into that now. So let's go look at the A times B plus C Befaco module. Okay, we're back, and now I have the A times B plus C module hooked up. This is a strange module. I haven't really figured out all the cool things it can do. I've been looking at the manual and they have a few different examples, but I have a feeling there's a lot more to this than I'm understanding at this point. One of the first things that it does is it can be used as a 4-channel mixer. It can be used very similar to this guy that we were looking at before. So what I did here is I have 4 oscillators, and I have it into A1, C1, A2, and C2. And the outputs on A times B plus C are normalized to output 2. Now that's a new word. What does normalization mean in the context of modular synthesis? Normalized means it is pre-wired to go to this output. So if I don't use output 1, then everything here will automatically go to output 2. If I plug something in to output 1, now these guys will come out here and these guys will come out here, and you have 2 separate units. But if I don't have anything plugged in, it will normalize to output 2, meaning I have all 4 outputs coming out, or all 4 inputs coming to a single output. So what have I got going here? Well, I've got the root, I've got a 4th, I've got my 5th, and I've got my octave. So this is just another way, if you run out of mixers. Now, of course, in VCV Rack, we can't run out of mixers because we could just go, boom, there, I need another mixer, and I need another mixer, and I need another mixer. Who cares that if in real life these were $180 each? Yeah, I need 4 of them, why not? In VCV Rack, you can do that. In real life, well, you might find yourself needing to mix more signals than you have mixers. So A times B plus C is another way to do that. What else can it do? Okay, in this setup, I have 2 oscillators here. The first one is tuned to a very low note, and the second oscillator is tuned to this note. And what I have is oscillator 1, that low note, going into A1, and the other note going into B1. And then I have the output coming into A2, so I'm going to have a level here. The whole thing is coming out of output 2. What is this doing? Okay, it's basically becoming a ring modulator. It's basically multiplying these sounds by each other, and we're going to get this really interesting, weird new tone. Now these are very simple sine waves. And you'll remember that sine waves are about the most basic waveform that we can have. That they don't filter very well, right? If we put it to a filter, it kind of seems to be on or off, but we don't really get a whoa, 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 whoa sound because they aren't, what's our favorite phrase? Complex waveforms. What do voltage control filters love? They love complex waveforms. Okay, so let's go make a complex waveform. Here's what we're going to do. We're multiplying these 2 guys, and check out what happens when you multiply them. Isn't that strange? And what if we add a sequence to say this one and change one of the oscillators but not the other? Then we get a very strange sort of harmony. What if we then start bouncing our VCA with an ADSR. And you can see how ring modulated sounds, even though they're basic sine waves, actually sound kind of like a bell. They sound more complex. Okay, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Complex? Can we filter it? Do filters like it? Look at that. And what if we modulate the frequency with the same ADSR? Wow, we could have something that sounds like a strange cowbell, or maybe a gamelan, or a metal plate being bashed with a hammer or something. I mean, that filter has a huge amount of response. And yet it's responding to sine waves, which don't have much complexity at all. So what we've done is we've created a brand new waveform using a ring modulator with A times B plus C. All right, what else can it do? Okay, right now I have the output of this LFO going into the input of A1 and the output of 1 going to the V octave of my oscillator. So it's not doing anything, because in this mode, A times B plus C kind of acts like a dual attenuverter. So if I bring this up, I'm controlling the range of this LFO. And this is an offset, just like the bottom knob of the dual attenuverter. So if I bring it up, see, the width of the waveform is controlled by this knob, but where is it in the audio spectrum is controlled by this knob. So it's really working like a dual attenuverter again. The other cool thing we can do with this is I can take the output here, put it to, say, I'll use FM1. And by reducing the voltage, I'm controlling the speed of the LFO. Now, on the Facebook VCV Rack user group, Michael Struggle mentioned that you could use this to create really, really slow LFOs. See, what if we just give it some negative voltage? We could slow it down to almost nothing. Imagine if you're building a drone and you want a really, really long wave sound or wind sound. You can slow your LFO down by using this as an extra speed knob. This is just one more thing the A times B plus C can do. That's A times B plus C. Now we're going to dive into the Rampage even more because, oh my gosh, there are so many more things it can do. All right, I'll be right back. And we're back, and I have the Rampage set up here. And I have it set up in a patch that we did a couple episodes ago when we were talking about the Rampage. And we did a trigger burst. You may remember this setup. And what it is the clock is going to both triggers. The rise time on this side is really a timer. We're not really using it to rise the voltage. We're just saying this is the amount of time. And while this is on, we're flipping this from single to cycle mode. And these knobs give us the speed of the cycle. So we can create a trigger burst. However, I'm not really outputting a trigger here. I'm really outputting a voltage. I was thinking, what if I took that and ran it to an oscillator? What would happen? Look at that. Yes, it is an actual voltage because we can use the rise, use it as more than just a trigger. Well, wait a minute. If I have a voltage and I also have a trigger of when it's rising, I wonder if I could use it to trigger an ADSR. Yep. And I wonder if that same ADSR could trigger a frequency. And of course we can change the speed of our pulse. What if we added some resonance? And then maybe use the drive to distort it a little bit. Who would have expected that you can get that sound out of what originally started as a trigger? Because yeah, this output is actually sending the rising and falling voltage, so why not use it? Okay, let's talk about another thing the Rampage can do. Okay, so a question has come up on both the Facebook VCV official user group and also on the subreddit for VCV Rack on Reddit. And the question on both is, how can we synchronize LFOs? That is, either having two LFOs running together so they basically hit the same start point at the same time, or say have one LFO waveform and then another LFO waveform, or have a single LFO which cycles in time with, say, a clock or a drum beat. And as so many things, the answer tends to be the Rampage. It seems that if you're wondering, how do I do this? The answer tends to be the Rampage and maybe a dual attenuverter. So what I've done is I've set up a beat. Just a drum beat every fourth and a hi-hat on every clock beat. And what I want is to have, let's do this. I want to have an LFO and I want that to be in cycle with my drum beat. And we can see right now that it's not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, put it as a trigger, and here's the interesting thing. Usually when we're using the Rampage as an LFO, we use it in cycle mode, right? Let's not use it in cycle mode. There we go. Now if we wanted, say, a sawtooth wave. There we go. Or if we wanted a reverse sawtooth wave. What if we wanted a triangle wave? Now I'm going to make this a little faster. And over here, I have a triangle wave set up. So what I want to do is I want to have this wave and then this wave happen. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something called a buffer trigger, or trigger buffer. We've done this before. Let me mute that out. We've used this before. Okay, and if you'll remember, this is receiving a trigger, and we're going to go ahead and trigger the second side. Whoop. But this trigger won't fire until it's armed, and we're going to arm it at the end of cycle of our first LFO. So this is not going to run until this finishes, and when this finishes, it's going to wait for the next clock cycle to run, so it will start in time. And now I'm going to take this output and mix it together. There we go. So check that out. We're actually, let's put the hi-hat in so we can hear that this second one is actually starting on the beat. We can hear it if I do a, there we go. A sawtooth, descending sawtooth. You can hear that it's actually starting at the same time as the hi-hat. So we have two different LFO patterns, one triggering off the next. So what happens on a trigger buffer, let me turn this off for a moment, is that we have a clock coming in, but it's not going to send that clock out unless the buffer is armed. So what's going to happen? Well, we have 4 trigger buffers. And so we have, let's see if I can just do this. Oh, I have to turn it on. That's already started. Okay, so I have this basic LFO, this rise and fall, happening, and then its end of cycle is arming the trigger buffer for the next beat. That one is starting the trigger on this LFO, which is a falling. That end of cycle is arming this one, which is another triangle wave. That end of cycle is arming this one, which triggers a rising. So you can see green, 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 green. Let's make this a real fast triangle wave. And let's make this a slower rise. There we go. Slow, fall, triangle, rise. So what we're doing is we're having, whoop, there we go. We're having 4 different waveforms triggering one after another. There we go. What's happening is there we go. That was going too short. It was triggering early. The Rampage can also be a gate delay. Now think about that. We have a gate coming from the sequencer, just playing a simple little sequence, and I want to delay the gate and do something else. Well, what I've got here is a second oscillator that's basically coming off the same sequence at a different pitch. So let me turn this down. If I turn that second oscillator on, so you can hear they're both running, but it's very, very slightly delayed, because even at the lowest, at the fastest, I should say. Oh wait, I wonder if I could change the range here. Nope. Anyway, even at the fastest, there's a little bit of a delay, a little bit of what we would think of as a flam if you're a drummer, where the sticks hit not quite at the same time, but that would be a flam. But what we're doing is I'm using the rise as a timer and the end of cycle as my gate. And remember, we're using this as a timer. So the longer this goes, there we go, we're delaying the ADSR of the second one. There we go. Now we have a really complex sequence of two notes bouncing back and forth, but we've only used one row of a sequencer. Okay, so your assignment is look at this. We have a whole nother side of the Rampage that's not being used. So set up a third voice, delay that, so instead of going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, we go ba-ba-da, 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 ba-ba-da. We have triplets. And that's your assignment. Oh, and one more quick thing about the Rampage. It's also a clock. Yeah, if we do exactly the same thing with no input, we just put it on cycle, use the end of cycle here, trigger it, we use our rise as a timer, then it's a clock. Is there anything the Rampage can't do? Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for episode 10. Hope you enjoyed it. Folks, if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe because that does help out a lot. And as always, stay curious. We'll see you next time. Okay, bye.